My son announced, "My wife, our kids, and her mother are moving in. It's final." Then he left to pick them up. But when they returned, the moment they stepped inside, what they found waiting for them left them completely stunned. The coffee had only just begun to drip when the door opened. No knock, no pause, not even the polite scrape of a shoe announcing arrival. I didn't turn around. Only one person still entered my house like that, as if the hinges belonged to him. Marcus, my son. My first great lesson in how love can grow into entitlement. "Morning," I called out, reaching for the jar of grounds, letting the familiar routine steady my breathing. He didn't answer right away, just stood behind me, quiet in that heavy, deliberate way people get when they've rehearsed something they think they're owed. I stirred sugar into my mug, slow circles, slow breaths, and just as the spoon touched the porcelain edge, his voice landed behind me, flat, certain, final. "My wife, the kids, and her mom are moving in. We already decided. You live alone. It's settled." The spoon stopped midair. My hand hovered in the thin, tense space between calm and collapse. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Not yet. The words "we already decided" hung in the air like damp clothes, heavy, dripping disrespect. Not "can we?" Not "do you mind?" Just a declaration, as if my house, my life, was one more room he could rearrange. I let the silence stretch. Let it grow legs and walk around him. I needed him to feel it. The weight of what he was taking for granted. But Marcus had never learned the language of silence. He mistook it, as always, for agreement. "There's no reason for you to be here alone, Mom. You've got 3 bedrooms. Ours is barely 2. The kids are crammed. And Martina's mom needs care. This just makes sense." Sense. That word again, the one people use when they mean, do what I want, and do it quietly. I lifted the mug. The coffee tasted bitter now, metallic almost. My hand didn't shake. My mouth didn't open. But something inside me, something old and cracked and buried deep, shifted like a plate of earth deciding it will no longer hold still. Marcus walked through the living room as if inspecting a property he'd already purchased, pointing at corners like a contractor. "The kids can take your sewing room. Otelia gets the guest room. Martina and I will figure out the rest." He didn't see me watching him. Didn't see my knuckles whitening around the mug. Didn't see the way my chest tightened with each careless claim he made over the spaces I'd spent decades building, repairing, protecting. He had come not to ask, but to announce, to claim, to take. I nodded slightly, the kind of nod you give when a man has forgotten how many times you've already said yes. When he left, keys jingling like a small smug victory, I poured the rest of the coffee down the sink. The drain swallowed the bitterness. I stood there rinsing the ring of brown from the mug, and the sound of running water pulled me back 2 years. Same kitchen, same silence. Martina had called me sobbing. Her mother had collapsed, a mass. Something pressing against her organs, no insurance, no funds, no plan. They didn't know what to do. I did. I walked to my bedroom closet, reached for the little blue box I'd tucked away after Michael died, the ring he'd bought me when love still felt like a promise, not a burden. I sold it the next morning, quietly, without ceremony. I asked the jeweler what they would give me for a life I no longer wore on my hand. It covered most of the costs. I filled in the rest. Marcus thanked me briefly. Martina cried. Otelia never called. And I never told anyone what that ring had truly cost me. My house, this house, was the only thing I'd built entirely on my own. Nights spent cleaning offices, days spent raising Marcus and his sister alone, graveyard shifts, blisters, skipped meals, 27 years to pay it off. Now they looked at it like square footage. The guest room I'd saved 6 months to furnish. The sewing room, my sanctuary. The quiet corners that had carried me through grief, loneliness, exhaustion. None of that was considered. I had always said yes, always stretched thinner so they could be more comfortable, but this time something inside me tore. Quietly, but surely. Marcus returned the next morning, eager to reaffirm decisions he believed were final. "The kids will take your sewing room, Mibri. Ye say you pusio, you," he repeated, spreading his arms wide like he was presenting a prize great light for schoolwork. He didn't see my jaw twitch. "And Otelia will be in the guest room. She needs less walking." As if I've ever had the privilege of knowing how she is. "Aisha," I murmured, And you and Martina? I asked. We'll be on the pullout, for now. For now. Those two words always meant indefinitely. Sounds planned, I said, keeping my voice level. He took that as consent, kissed my cheek, left to rent a van. When the door closed, I counted to 10, then reached for the landline. That afternoon, I made 3 calls, to a clerk, a lawyer, and someone who owed me a favor. My voice never rose, my pulse never spiked, but inside something had begun moving with purpose. The next day, Martina came with sweet rolls and a smile coated in sugar and manipulation. She walked through my home like inspecting inventory. The curtains, the guest room, the sewing room. Oh, the kids already packed their boxes, she laughed lightly. Leandro chose his corner of your sewing room. I nodded once, because in my mind things were official too, just not in the way she imagined later. Alda, my friend of 30 years, arrived with black coffee and her fierce, familiar gaze. They said what? She asked. I told her everything. She listened with the quiet fury of a woman who knows this pattern well. Then she squeezed my hand. This isn't about family. It's about control. I didn't want to believe that. Not about my own son. But the truth stung because I'd seen it before. I'd lived it. That night, Alda helped me gather documents. Deed copies, will drafts, emergency plans. We sealed them in a file. The line had been drawn, and for the first time in years, I felt the ground beneath me steady. Monday morning came plain and gray. I walked into the bank wearing a simple coat and determination. I'd like to make a transfer, I said. The teller blinked at the number. Are you sure? Yes. It wasn't a fortune, but it was mine. The money I'd stitched together over decades of mending other people's clothes, saving coins, hiding bills. The account was moved, secure, private. By afternoon, I was in a realtor's office signing papers on a bungalow across town. One story, quiet, good light. I didn't hesitate. By the time Marcus texted to ask when they could start moving in, the answer was already decided. Let's talk first, I wrote. He thought that meant negotiation. It meant closure. Saturday morning, the moving truck pulled up at 9:07 a.m. sharp. I watched from the porch as my son stepped out with a clipboard full of certainty. Martina barked orders. The kids tumbled out barefoot, already imagining my house as theirs, boxes labeled toys, kitchen, playroom spilled into the driveway. They didn't knock. They approached the door like it belonged to them. It didn't open. Nothing's coming in, I said. Marcus laughed. Mom, stop. Just open up. We need to unload. I shook my head. This house is sold. Everything froze. Sold? Martina whispered. To a woman from Charleston, I said. She likes gardening and doesn't plan to convert anything. Marcus dropped the clipboard. Are you serious? As a deed and a signature. You didn't tell us. And you didn't ask. The movers hesitated. Ma'am, should we unload? No, you'll be taking everything back. Marcus stormed up the steps. We gave notice to our landlord, the kids. You made decisions based on a house that wasn't yours. You're throwing out your own family. I'm keeping them out, I said quietly. The movers reloaded the boxes. The kids watched, silent. Martina cried. Marcus glared. They left with everything they came with, because none of it belonged here. 2 days later, Marcus returned with Uncle Ned, his attempt at a mediator. They walked in without permission. This is getting out of hand, Marcus snapped. I led them into the dining room. 3 mugs, 2 cooling, 1 warm. Marcus began his speech, accusations, guilt, flattery, manipulation. Ned added the soft pressure of nostalgia. When they finished, I slid a folder across the table. Inside, the signed sale, the new deed, the bank documents. Marcus opened it. His face drained color, then flooded with anger. You planned this behind our backs. No, I said. I planned this despite you. He shot up, knocking the chair. This cuts you off from your family. I stayed seated. No, this ends the part of my life where my love was treated like a resource to extract. He left, slamming the door. Ned followed, shaking his head. I sat alone, sipping the warm mug. Then I called Alda. It was time to pack. Signing the final paperwork for the bungalow felt like exhaling after years of holding my breath. Danielle, the realtor, handed me a single silver key. Welcome home, Saren. Home. The old house didn't receive a goodbye. I owed it nothing. I owed myself everything. The new bungalow smelled of sunlight and fresh paint. No footsteps stomping entitlement. No rooms claimed without asking, just space. Air, quiet, mine. The call from Marcus's lawyer came a week later. He was contesting the sale, claiming duress, claiming I wasn't in my right mind. I laughed, a deep, honest sound. I faxed my medical clearance, my notarized documents, my proof. Then I said, remind your client I'm his mother, not his asset. And I hung up. My mornings are mine now. My afternoons too. Only invited footsteps enter my home. My grandkids visit. Marcus stays on the porch. That's fine. Love doesn't require access, only respect. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the hallway mirror. Not the lines, not the silver hair, but the eyes, calm, certain, unapologetic. Serene, I say to the woman looking back. Just serene. And I smile because for the first time in decades, it feels true.